Well, hello you. Let's talk about the yellow pattern scales, shall we? So for the yellow pattern scales, I don't spend as much time isolating the pattern itself like I did with the blue. With the blue pattern, I get them into the hand shape and I have them playing the finger pattern exercise from Fingerboard Geography for a while before I have them start playing the actual blue scales. For the yellow pattern, it makes more sense to me to start doing them with the scales themselves because it makes more sense orally. The yellow pattern itself in that finger exercise sounds like which is just a little weird for the ear. I find it easier for a lot of students to get it to get the pattern itself down in the context of the scales, because if you're doing it with the scale, they should know what the scales themselves sound like, so that will help them get the pattern, which in this case is trickier to get than the scales themselves. If we're on a Suzuki timeline, I will do this just before we get to the minuets, because it's minuet 2 where they're going to need the yellow pattern with that raised third finger going. So here's where we get into a little bit of my thought process behind which scales were the primary scales and which ones were the secondary scales. Because the yellow pattern scales start on your first finger, and sticking with the pattern of starting on a lower string, we're going to start with some form of E. Now if you think about E major and E flat major on the violin, they both have equal resonance issues, right? E major has 4 sharps in it. You only have the open A and the open E resonating. But for E flat major, it's got 3 flats. You only have open G and open D resonating. So there was no definitive answer as far as that went. What decided it was the context of the finger patterns. The easiest way to teach them the yellow pattern is to have them start with the red and say, okay, now raise your third finger a half step. That's the easiest way to do it. So if we're going to stick in that sort of a context, they're used to having the red pattern with the 1 on an E in the case of the D string, right? So it made more sense to have them move the 1 finger up to G sharp rather than move the other 4 fingers down to let that one stay where it needed to be. Again, it's just a matter of why move 3 things when you can just move 1. So we start off E major, nice and simple. And here's where you're going to make sure that they play their 4th finger on the top, because why would you cross for 1? It's too much movement. So much easier to do that than it is to do that. Even if you just do the wrist way, so much easier. So the arpeggio here offers you another great chance for ear training, because what they're going to want to do, they tend to get it pretty well, that high G sharp in the context of the scale, but when you no longer have the full stepwise motion, a lot of them will make it minor. So you want to make sure that they're listening for that major third. So from E, we're going to move on to B on the A string, the higher octave. And again, same process as before. They're just gonna tell them, okay, play the E, now move it up a string, start there, you're in B. And this is when we get into those more scary keys with a lot of accidentals. They just played a scale with 5 sharps in it. But as long as you don't mention, hey, this is a scary key, there's 5 sharps in it, they shouldn't have a problem. You can't, like, if you wanna talk about it, have them play the scale first so they see how easy it is in the context of these finger patterns, and then go, good job, that's a scale that scares a lot of older musicians. That's a good way to go about that too. Now we can go down onto G and go with that low octave of the A major. And once that's comfortable, we can go on and do their second 2-octave scale by stitching that lower A with the red open string A upper octave. It's a lot of words. There's there's a couple of things that you're going to want to watch for here. Just like with the 2-octave G, you want to make sure they know where to stop, because a lot of them will want to go up and play that 4th finger B, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's not. It's an A scale, so why play a B? Same thing on the bottom. Some of them might want to go to G. That one's a little easier for them to notice, because it does sound so weird if they do that, since you need a G sharp in the key. The other thing you have to be aware of here, don't tell them this, but you need to be aware of it, is it's trickier to do the 2-octave A than it was the 2-octave G. And that's because of the colors, right? So for this one, it's again, string by string, they're thinking yellow, yellow, red, red, right? With the G, they were thinking red, red, blue, blue. And then on the way down, it was blue, blue, red, red, right? They were coming from the less familiar pattern into the more familiar one on the way down. Here, they're doing the opposite. They're coming red, red, more familiar, yellow, yellow. So they're going into the less familiar pattern here. So you just have to be aware of that. They're more likely to play a low 3 on the way down in this scale than they were to play a low 2 on the way down in the 2-octave G. So just be aware of that. But following that nice, easy stitching together of the octaves thing and thinking one color for every string, yellow, yellow, red, red, they should be fine, just like they were with the G. And again, just like the G, from this point forward, if I say play an A major scale, I want them to assume that I'm in the 2-octave. So that's it for the yellow scales. The next video is going to be the green ones, which are the last primary major scales that we're going to cover. Then it's into secondaries, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun with that. So make sure you subscribe and like and do all the things so that you know when that green pattern video is going to drop. It'll be a grand old time. Follow me on the social medias. I'm that KJ Bell on everything that you can find. Happy scaling. Happy scaling is so corny, but what else are you gonna say?